Welcome to Wednesday night with Cup of Joe. How is everybody doing out there? Thank you for showing up tonight, Dolores. Really do appreciate it. The rest of you, as everybody starts coming in, we got some interesting topics to discuss tonight. As everybody knows, there's been an awful lot of news coming out of Idaho, of all places. And these are things that we really need to start discussing because they're becoming more and more prevalent all over the United States, particularly as the fear starts picking up regarding our economic crash, several other incidences that are going on across the United States, food supply chains getting busted. Now, all of these things are creating instability in our economy, instability in our communities. Hi, Mike. How you doing? Appreciate it. Brandy, thank you for coming on. So, the big issue, extremism in the United States. Now, and in particular here in the state of Idaho. Now, most of you are very much aware that over the weekend, this last weekend, we had an incident in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, small town not too far from Hayden Lake, which I think was, 20 years ago? No, maybe, 40 years ago. 1980s, 1990s, we had the Hayden Lake compound up there. That was a neo-Nazi compound. That was run essentially the attempt to create an ethno-state up in northern Idaho. They had the little compound up there. They were running their little neo-Nazi stuff, a whole bunch of other things at the time. Coeur d'Alene did a real good job of running them out back then. But as we continue to see things develop all across the United States, it becomes more and more of a problem as things develop. Now, yeah, thank you, Lana. Appreciate it. Mike, come on. Slow down. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. You know, as we start getting closer and closer to election season, as we go through the summer, we start looking at the drought issues. We start looking at the food supply as everything starts going down. Power starts running into a problem. We're already looking at what, $5, $6 gas, $7 in some places. We're already talking about reaching 10, in some of the states because of the combination of taxes and profiteering associated with high gas profits coming out of several companies right now. So the fear that drives xenophobia, that drives nationalism, that drives that need to consolidate people of a like mind, to prevent the others from coming in and taking the things that you all of a sudden feel have become really scarce, really difficult to find. Okay. That's one of the things we want to talk about. Reason why is because fear continues to drive division all across the United States. We see it day in, day out. Who are the people we can trust? Is it the people in our communities? Is it the people in our church? What are we looking at as far as, foreign relations? Right now, United States, we've done a real good job with the emergency Afghan evacuation resettlement plan. An awful lot of the Afghan refugees, they were part of the withdrawal, the emergency withdrawal. It was an emergency resettlement plan for a significant number of Afghans. We're going through the same process right now with the Ukrainians, emergency resettlement. We're making room. We're making place for people who are fleeing war. And these people are still others. They are speaking a different language. They have a different culture. They have different ideas of what it is. And they find themselves in a strange land, in a strange place, dependent upon individuals like you and me, who are natives, who grew up in these places where they are being resettled, away from everything they know, away from everything they've become accustomed to. And here we are in the United States, we're looking around and we're going, resources are going to get scarce. We've already run into supply chain issues. We've already gone through a shortage of stuff at the grocery stores. Massive deaths in the feedlots in central United States right now. I think they lost somewhere like 30,000 head of cattle at one of the feedlots. So we have these situations that are continuing to develop. Yeah, Mike. Well, there's actually quite a few that were resettled here. If you ever get a chance to talk with Dan McKnight about Bring Our Troops Home, he actually talks about having met his interpreters from when he was in Afghanistan here in Idaho. They showed up and picked him up in his Uber. So they're here, they're present, and you're starting to see more and more of them open up businesses. Now, as most of you are aware, this last weekend, 31 Patriot Front individuals were arrested in the state of Idaho in the process of moving towards a pride parade, a pride event in Coeur d'Alene with the intent to cause mayhem. That's probably the polite term for what it was they actually intended on doing, especially considering some of the evidence that the Kootenai County Sheriff claims they have found as part of the investigation into what was going on, which included a 7-page op order as to how they were going to conduct operations once they arrived at the park. Now, this actually goes back, quite a ways. This planning, this invitation, not just because it's the Patriot Front that showed up. Got a video here from an event that happened here in the state of Idaho. This happened at the North Idaho Pachyderm Club. And the person who's actually introducing these individuals is Heather Scott. She's one of our state representatives from up north. And this was at an event. Give me a few moments to go ahead and pull it up here. And we are going to start playing.
So this is a group from Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai County, and they want a couple minutes to just share. So make sure you kind of stand behind the camera there.
So, as a lot of you are aware, you're starting to get involved, and we thank you for that. There are groups everywhere. As she was saying before, a lot of these groups are government funded. These parades are government funded. Many of you aren't aware right now, in Coeur d'Alene, on the 10th of June, there is Family Day. And in Family Day, they are promoting family values, activities, and everything. The very following day, they are having Gay Pride Day. In the very same park, the very next day, where they will be allowed to parade through all of Coeur d'Alene, drag queen dancers, education hour, making all this material available for all the kids in a park that is designed for kids. We are having an event the very same day. That very same day, we actually intend to go head to head with these people. A line must be drawn in the sand. Good people need to stand up. As she was talking about the repercussions, we say, damn the repercussions. Stand up. Take it to the head. Go to the fight. If you can, possibly, we know a lot of you are in Bonner. We live in Bonner County. We are fighting in multiple counties. We are asking for all of you to come stand with us. Our event is advertised as Gun to Lane because it's an anniversary of when we stood to protect our community. We're standing again to protect our community. We shifted our date to be available to go head to head with these people. They are trying to take your children. This fight is not just paper. It's not just words. It's not just politicians. They have to see people standing in their face saying, no more. If we don't do this, they're winning. As she said, the amount of steps they take are 10 to 1. They've got people nonstop on this. We gain 2 steps, they gain 12. We're not going to win. We're not going to fight back at a leisurely pace. We're busy 6 days a week doing this, and we know a lot of you are too. But we're asking a lot of you, leave your homes, leave your comfort, come stand. If you want to see it, if you want to see what they're promoting, come down there on June 11th. Come see what they're doing. Come with us. Come stand. If any of you want to make stands in these public libraries and you feel nervous, you feel threatened, call us. We'll stand with you. They don't intimidate us. They don't scare us. If you need help, call upon us. We're here. Thank you.
All right, so as most of you've seen here, that's pretty standard format for an awful lot of what goes on in northern Idaho. These individuals, supporting the conservative values of North Idaho, talking about, well, basically what it comes down to is they don't feel that consenting individuals should be able to do what it is they want to do. They don't want them to be able to celebrate themselves, who they are. They don't want them making a presence in their space. They don't want them exercising their rights in their space. This continues to be a problem in a number of areas, but this was the opening invitation. This was the opening salvo for what brought in the Patriot Front organization in this entire scenario. Yeah, and it continues on. It builds. Okay. And here we go. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. These are the 31 individuals who were arrested. These were the ones who got out of the back of the U-Haul outside of the parking Coeur d'Alene. They have the Kootenai County Sheriff has released all of their mugshots. These people have been doxxed rather liberally on several websites, so it won't take too much to find them. And it's really interesting as you continue to step back and you take a look at the stories that are coming out. One of these individuals was in Texas. His mother actually saw his picture, saw his name on one of the reports. And the response was, "You're not going to be doing that white supremacist shit in my house, boy. Get out. Get out." So a couple of these individuals, because of the nature of who they are and the nature of their family relations, they're going to be homeless soon, folks. Now, the vast majority of these individuals, they're all under 30. They're between 20 and 30 years old. They came from as many as 12 different states. 12 different states. 7 of them from Texas, individuals from Wyoming, Washington, Oregon, far away as Langley, Virginia. They all got on an airplane. They all flew into Spokane. They all got into a hotel downtown Coeur d'Alene. They were there. That morning, they all loaded up into the back of a U-Haul to go down to the park with riot shields. One of the things you step back and you take a look at. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of this other stuff that we got going on. Okay. This was the Gun Delane event. Okay, these were individuals that were actually at the park. Okay. Supposedly they were supposed to organize at a different park. They ended up organizing right there. The Gun Delane event was supposed to be held at McEwen Park, but they started showing up outside of the city park for the Coeur d'Alene Pride event. You're looking at these individuals here. Let's go ahead and take a look. The prayer circles that were there. You had a couple other individuals that all coordinated and end up setting up. So we had armed individuals that were present at the time the Patriot Front were getting arrested. These were individuals showing up. Is that guy wearing a kilt? That guy's wearing a kilt. Jesus. And you're going to show up at a pride parade wearing a gun and a kilt. Okay, I got it. This is one of those things here. Out here in Idaho, but half disappear into obscurity. A few will ever be redeemed. A few are going to go deeper into their persecution delusion and get real dangerous. Okay, now there's an awful lot of truth to a significant amount of this. I'll go ahead and shrink this down so I can take a look. You start paying attention to what's going on with these scenarios, these situations, what's going on. Nolan, well, okay, maybe. Depending on which branch of the family tree I run up, yeah, I can actually go back and, pretend to be the Scots and get my William Wallace kilt and all the rest of that fun stuff. Well, let's get back here to what Mike was talking about. The idea, because you saw an awful lot of these individuals. They're young. Now, you run into the problems of how young were they? What were they looking at as far as, what do they see? Men's rights activists, is that the issue? They want to go back to that old traditional lifestyle where the man is the head of the house. Most of these young men, they're trying to prove they're machismo. They're getting out, they're doing these things. Is it the whole Patriot Front ideology? Now, one of the things about Patriot Front is they're one of the few white supremacists that are actually advocating for a white ethno-state. Okay, so for those of you who aren't familiar with white ethno-state, this isn't the white supremacist thing. This is whites only. Okay, the separatist movement. This is the white zone. You don't go into the white zone, which is particularly interesting when you look at the history of the Pacific Northwest. Okay, back during the Civil War, because yes, the Northwest Territories were originally formed by the United States just prior to the Civil War. And the area was actually set up with the intent to be settled as a white-only zone. Several of the states, several of the territories actually had severe punishments for blacks, for Negroes, and for other individuals who settled here in the Pacific Northwest for too long. Portland, Oregon, 30 lashings for every day a black man spent in Oregon longer than 30 days. The entire area, the entire legal code was originally set up. Idaho only recently went through the issue. We had legislation passed that would allow people to go into their own property, mind you. These were deeds they bought, property they owned, that had a clause that said that they could not sell this property to a black man. We only recently wrote legislation that allows property owners to go to the county clerk and actually have that clause removed from the deeds on their property. That's how embedded the white nationalism is in Idaho's history, Oregon's history, Washington's history, and in addition to what we were dealing with the Aryan nations, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, up in the Hayden Lake compound, and what we're starting to look at now as these things continue to develop. Right, Brandy? Arkansas made local news, right? You go to Idaho, and all of a sudden you're a local villain. I guess that's what it is. You're the local villain. All of a sudden everybody in your community now knows who you are for the bad guy who flew to Idaho to, and this is ridiculous. Okay? We got pictures of this event, right? This is the CDA Pride event. We got pictures. I'm going to show you pictures here. Okay? This is what we're looking at. Okay? Family event. People wearing Pride Month. Yes, the great picture of the 31 all on their knees, all zip tied, all ready to get loaded in for transport downtown into lockup. You know, some of the local militias there for the Gun to Lane event. Yeah, to celebrate families, kids, straight folks. You know, the Pride Parade. They got all up armored for this. You know, they were showing up in the U-Haul, their Patriot Front uniforms, all getting arrested. There's our local preacher right there, man. I was the local preacher up in CDA. He got himself arrested for trying to preach Jesus someplace he wasn't invited to. Coeur d'Alene drag queen. Yeah. It was insane. You know, family event. You got kids there and they're ready to show up with riot shields, getting ready to brawl, throw down. You know, it's not the scenario you really want to create if you're imagining family values, if you're imagining conservative values. Yeah, Kate wanted to see. Mike, yeah. Unfortunately, we're probably just going to go for punishment and release without psychiatric intervention to mitigate future problems. Yeah. That one's going to be an interesting one, especially as we continue to take a look at the way a number of these things develop. Okay. And Kay, you're right. It's getting out of hand. But again, that goes back to the fear. We don't have community leaders that are looking at reassuring people, making sure that people understand that things can be made to be okay. We got politicians in Washington, D.C. that are exacerbating the situation. They're going out and saying, well, we just invested a whole bunch of money and inflation's going to get out of hand. Okay. We're losing baby food formula plants that we can't keep open. You know, we're losing herds of cattle, you know, in feedlots in Nebraska. You know, we're going through all of these things, and our politicians, our leaders, aren't providing that reassurance that the communities want to hear that things can be okay. We're literally painting a worst case scenario, and people are starting to panic. That's what's driving the fear. That's what's driving the hate. It's one of those things, if you actually listen to me, if you're paying attention to what's going on, what can you do to reassure your community? How can you build that system of mutual aid so that people know they're not going to be starving here in 6 months? Okay, how do you know that you can build that mutual aid so they know they will have housing in 6 months, that their children will have a place to sleep in 6 months, as all of this stuff goes to what looks like it could be a very difficult situation very, very soon, simply because our politicians refuse to take the steps necessary to open up options for you to do what you need to do the right thing in your community, to help your friends, to help your family. You know, we still got the FDA that's telling us we can't buy local beef. You know, we still got the CDC saying we got to go through them in order to get antivirals. We got to go through specific channels in order to get our medicine. We have to use the healthcare system that's become corrupted over the past 50 years. You know, we can't set up a personal relationship with a physician who's doing private practice. You know, we got to go through the monopolies. We got to go through the health management systems. We got to go through something other than developing the relationship with the professionals in our community. Okay. It's going to become more and more important as the federal government continues to collapse in on itself, as Mike here points out. Okay, they keep pulling to the extremes, left, right, moralish, social, moral. Okay, we aren't addressing the real problems. We aren't addressing the potential of food shortages. We aren't dealing with the problems of inflation. We aren't dealing with the rising gas prices. You know, we keep pointing, no, it's about gays. You know, it's about the trans. It's about the LGBTQ agenda. It's about CRT. No, it's gloss, folks. Things you need to worry about, the things that are going to take care of your community, the things that are going to get you through are basic human needs: food, shelter, security. And these are things that are right now being lost all across the United States, one at a time, as corporate-owned properties turn previously privately owned residences into rental properties. Nobody owns their own. We're losing personal home ownership these days. Everybody's becoming renters. We're losing our food supply. We're losing our blocks. This is a good point, Mike. And this is one of those things. Herbert Spencer, 1851. Okay, now you realize this was about 40 years before the state of Idaho was actually created. Okay, we have a duty to ignore the state when the state becomes unreasonable. Okay. We may have to ignore some of the regulations. And move on with other business. We need to take care of ourselves first and worry about the regulations later. Develop those relationships with your local farmers. Go to the farmers market. Find out how you can get direct source. That way you're not waiting until Saturday to go down. You can actually place the orders online. You can get the supplies you need. You can pre-order so that the local agricultural process understands what your needs and what your requirements are going to be for the next week. Learn to cook for yourself, because the box stuff that's on the shelves that we've gotten so used to over the last 20 years, it's going to start going away, man. Pay attention. Start building those networks. Start learning the skills and talents you need right now. We got time, folks. We got time. Not much, but we got time. We got time enough to make sure that we can still be okay and get through this. We got time for this to be all right. It's one of the things I want you and your communities to know. It's going to take leadership. It's going to take initiative. It's going to take individual and community effort. Because you're not going to be able to depend on the government, folks. I think we're past that point. I think we all know we're past that point. Leadership, individual effort, community effort, human action. God, I hate using that term, but it applies, folks. It applies. Take advantage of the time. Build those relationships in your community so that you can set the stage for success in what is coming, so that you can set the stage for the transformation, the evolution of what it means to be an American, what it means to be part of a community again, and to be able to do those things that are so critical in securing your future, the future of your children, future of your community. This is everybody, man. Regardless of ethnicity, regardless of sexuality, regardless of sex, regardless of sexual orientation, regardless of religion, regardless of creed. Reach out to your community. Start building those relationships. Okay. State of Idaho. Here in Boise, we've had a resettlement program. We have 3 mosques here. We have about 6 or 7 different sects of Islam that practice here in the state of Idaho in the Treasure Valley. We have nearly 30 Christian sects: LDS, Nazarene, Baptist, Mennonite, Quaker even, German Baptist. A lot of these with fundamentalist roots, a lot of them with more progressive roots, universe, We have these capabilities. We have these different communities that have developed. A lot of them with good, strong cultural values, community values, the ability to step in and help each other simply out of the goodness of their heart. We continue to see the Relief Society of the LDS Church. For those of you who are not familiar, yes, I grew up LDS. Yes, I have religious trauma. Yes, I can never go back for many a reason. That does not stop me from appreciating the sense of community the Women's Relief Society of the LDS Church can actually bring to a community. Their strength, their ability to carry the culture and promote the health and welfare of the people around them. We can do better. We can do greater. We can succeed and we can get through this. We're going to take people like you and me, developing those relationships in our community, depending upon our community, and at times ignoring the rules that the federal and state government have set for us. Because those rules are getting in the way of us making a success of all of this. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the other things that are associated with this. Okay, now we talked about the Patriot Front. The Patriot Front is a white nationalist group. And ironically, I'm going to have to find this. Because I actually had an article that popped up in my feed. Hopefully I won't have to go back too far for it. Before that one. I really hate not having this conversation with you guys as I go back through trying to find something I should have found before we started this. But this one's particularly ironic, and I really want to bring attention to it. That one. Okay. Here's the article I'm looking for. Okay. Now, reason why this is of particular interest. Okay. This is from the Idaho 3% website. Okay. This was created and presented by Eric Parker. Okay. The Eric Parker from the 2014 Bundy Ranch standoff. So this individual is someone who has experience with the idea of the anti-government movement, being able to create the independence, being able to look at what it means to be part of the republic. Now, it's been 8 years since he's done that, and he's done an awful lot of growing as a community leader, as a community developer, organizer. But he actually writes this article with regards to what is the Patriot Front. Okay. As a 3%er, and some of you remember the patch that was being worn by one of the individuals who was promoting the gun to lane. He was wearing the 3%er patch. Okay, this is an article by Eric Parker, who was the head of the Idaho 3%, head of, a group that represent, the organization that individual claimed to be associated with. And he's actually talking about what is represented by, everything that goes on with regards to the Patriot Front. There's an awful lot of people out there that talk about things like, the national divorce. We talk about balkanization of the United States as the federal government proceeds to dissolve. They talk about what it means to create, covenant communities and a number of other things as we start talking about how are we going to reform and recreate our America following the fall of this. Okay. Eric actually talks about what the dangers of these organizations like the Patriot Front talk about. The dangers of creating ethno-states within the territory of the Republic of the United States. This represents for the natural rights of all people born, and the rest of humanity for that matter, what it represents to natural rights of individuals who do not fit the pattern that organizations like Patriot Front endorse, talk about, and support. You know, we talk about that, and these are things that are actually need to become concerned about. You know, the clips. So for those of you who are actually interested, you know, you got 3% website, what Eric Parker actually believes and stands for as the leadership of the Idaho 3%. Now, there's an awful lot of people that are uncomfortable with some of the things he says, but at the same time, he's not talking about white separatism. He's not talking about white ethno-states or black ethno-states. He's talking about being able to retain community, even though it represents something different than what an awful lot of us see today. I can't endorse him, but I do recognize a significant amount of where he's coming from. Now, 3%ers. You know, it's a paramilitary, not quite a militia. It's actually interesting the way they operate because there are anti-militia laws in several states across the United States. Idaho happens to be one with several anti-militia laws. Mike, Daryl Davis, yes. Remember to love your neighbor. A lot of the extremists, for the most part, can be de-hated. Diggs bringing them into the community, and that's one of those things that's interesting. Most of these people who are the supremacists, who are the separatists, become supremacists, become separatists because they feel disenfranchised by the communities they grew up in. Okay? The hate groups present the opportunity for community, present the opportunity for belonging. You know, they create the opportunity for people to identify with something or someone, whether you're looking at the European nationalist organizations like Europa, whether or not you're looking at Christian nationalist white separatists like the Patriot Front or Patriot Prayer groups, where you're looking at other groups like that that form up in northern Idaho, where you're looking at not just the white separatists, but you're actually looking at Christian nationalists. You're looking at white Christian nationalists. You're looking at these groups who find a core, find a way to identify as a group, identify as an organization, you know, and talk about the values that once again honor and respect the masculinity, you know, right? This is one of the things, it's easy to integrate like-minded people. It's productive to integrate the other. That's one of those things as we talk about moving from the idea of a divergent culture where it's exclusionary and it's like the others can stay over there. You know, I don't mind them exercising their rights as long as they exercise their rights away from me. It's where we look at the divergent culture, the culture of exclusion. You know, as we start looking at invitations, we start looking at culture of consent, the idea that people can agree to cooperate. As we start moving towards the culture of inclusion, where we start talking about a culture of invitation. Not so much stronger together as Mussolini made famous, as FDR made famous, with, industry and government stronger together. But the idea that our diversity creates both flexibility and strength so that we can overcome and become something more than we are when we exclude. Brandy, one of the things you bring up here, KKK, they're still heavy in the South. They're still looking for their ethno-state. They're still looking for their white-centric, Eurocentric position and everything that goes on with that. These are things we want to be careful of. We cannot have this kind of separation and still be able to remain strong as communities, because the ethno-state ideals, the idea of I'm Christian and you're an atheist and he's a Muslim, so we can't no, we need to get past that. We need to develop the community. We need to develop the relationships, the strengths that come from each of those, so that we can understand and become stronger as a community. Because the second we start doing the exclusion, as soon as we start pushing people out of the group, all of a sudden those people have a reason to start fighting, because they're being denied resources. They're being denied community. Invite them in. Be inclusive. As Mike puts it, invite the others in. Find a way to make each other stronger. Because Christian nationalism, we've seen how quick it breaks because of the uniformity. Because the cults of personality that develop within the organization. The belief that there is only one person with communion with God. Where the preacher ends up with excessive control. We don't need Jim Jones. We don't need these other organizations that become so focused on the megalomaniacs that create themselves as the center of an organization. Take human action. Be an individual. And still be part of the community. No, these are things that aren't always easy to do. But if we're going to overcome the hate, if we're going to overcome the fear that's being generated in this era of destabilization, we're going to be better than our grandparents were when they called for the incarceration of the Japanese Americans at the beginning of World War II. If we are going to be better than the people who started the Black Wall Street riots back in the 1800s, if we are going to be better than the people who started doing the repatriation raids in Texas and Oklahoma back in the 1930s, if we are actually going to show progress as a culture, as a society, as humanity, we got to be better than what we were. And this is something we can do. Yes, we can. We can be better than all of that. And we can rise from this stronger. We can rise from this better. All we need is you. Yes, we do. Okay, folks. I've been at this 45 minutes. Unfortunately, I'm getting a little bit tired about talking about white supremacists, ethno-states, Christian nationalism, and all of that fun stuff. The reason why is because it's depressing. Go out, be friends, be a community. Find your family. Become the core of that network that makes a success out of the troubled times that are going to be coming our way. In the meantime, remember, folks, family, friends, community. As long as you got those three, you can make anything happen. Love you guys. Stay safe.